Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chasing a Murderer. My name is Debbie, and today I have a story that I want to share that really kind of touched me deeply. So, it's coming out of Ohio, the Cleveland area, an EMS worker who went missing for 5 days. The young lady's name is Lachelle Jordan, age 30, last seen wearing a blue and white East Cleveland Fire Department sweatshirt near Fairfield Avenue in Cleveland, which was on May 6th at the time of 2023. In fact, her family, they knew that she was dealing with some things that were very concerning that raised some red flags, and they would report her missing as soon as the laws would allow, so the next day. But right before Lachelle was actually reported missing, her job was having to make special accommodations for her because she was being stalked. And the guy stalking her was Michael Stennett. He would sit outside of her house, and even some of her 911 calls in his car, just staring at her. And Mark Barrett, which was the president of the Cleveland's EMS union, said that they did their best to try to protect her, knowing that she was dealing with some serious issues with this guy by the name of Mike. In fact, let's jump back to January 3rd of 2023. And it's right there between January 3 and January 4th. It seems that Stennett actually stood outside of Jordan's home and refused to leave, according to court documents. In the court documents, it also stated that Lachelle Jordan felt as though that this guy would cause her physical and mental distress as a result of his actions. This led to a protection order, which was served to this guy January 13th. And just a few months later, around April 25th, authorities told Michael Stennett that if he did not comply with the no contact order, he would be placed on a GPS monitoring system and be placed in jail. So guess what? It seemed that Jordan had actually told police that she was not only being stalked by Michael, but also by a female friend of Michael's. This female would follow her on the freeway and actually even tried to run her off the road. This happened on her way home from work. But why would this woman help Michael? What is going on that they are so desperate to give Lachelle so much trouble? Well, it seems that there was a court date coming up. And it seemed that Michael Stennett was facing rape charges. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing this right, but I think it's Cuyahogah. It's Cuyahogah County Common Pleas Court. So let me give you a little bit of background on this guy before we go any further. So Michael Stennett actually began working for the city in 2016 in a recreation department, guys working with children. He earned about $25,000 last year, according, to this news article that was covering the story. So here you have this guy. This was a big thing when this story first broke. Working around children daily. That's being facing rape charges and then also abduction. And this really just makes me think back to the Lori Vallow case. Remember how Lori was stalking Joseph Ryan and how difficult it was for Joseph Ryan to get anything done? Because legally, it seemed like the law works for the stalkers. So here you have Lachelle. She's like doing everything in her power legally to try to do something about this guy and wait until the court date where she's going to have to testify against this guy. But before she can make it to that court date, well, she disappears. And all of this, she had a lot of people trying to help her. She was at work. And so the union took her off the streets and put her into an office because somehow this guy was following her to her 911 calls. And this actually started 3 weeks before May 6th, which is the last day that Jordan is seen. What they know is that Lachelle Jordan had actually went out to her vehicle to get something out of that car, but she never returned back inside. And the strange thing about this is she left all her clothes and left all her belongings, didn't take any of that with her as she left. According to her twin sister, she said that her sister did not notify her that she was leaving. It certainly wasn't planned, and she felt like something had happened. Most people that were close to her in her life knew that she was dealing with this guy, Michael, who was stalking and threatening her, and that her work had gone out of their way to make sure that nothing would happen to her while at work. So, she was working in headquarters. So the only option Michael had was to wait until she was alone and away from her work environment. According to Lachelle's twin sister, she said that she believed that someone was holding her sister hostage due to the fact, she's gone for several days. And once the media catch on to the fact that Jordan was scheduled to testify, it wouldn't take long before they were looking a certain direction as well. Because Jordan was due to attend this pretrial hearing Monday, May 8th, in this case involving Michael Stennett. So here I learned that there was actually 2 counts of rape and a count of abduction. And by this time, Jordan had actually reported this guy for stalking her several times. Now get this, Jordan goes missing at 6 p.m. May 6th. That's what some of these things are saying. I thought it was May 5th at first. According to her twin sister, Rochelle, she says Rochelle was actually staying with her, and that the window in that home was shot through around 6 a.m. So that morning that she, of that day that she goes missing. That's really scary. She has all this stalking and threats, people shooting in their windows, and this guy's still out. So Lachelle Jordan was actually last seen, so it was around 6 p.m. on Saturday. And at this point, the next day, as they're reporting her missing, they are putting on this on these flyers that not only is she missing, she's also considered endangered. This was based off the fact that she had recently told police that she had fears for her safety. So media and the police start asking the public, if you can assist us, please. Does anybody know anything about Lachelle? Though they have a good idea that it might be connected to Stennett, they can't say that because they don't have the evidence to do so. So by May 8th of 2023, which is on a Monday, same day that they were supposed to do the pre-trial, Jordan's missing, of course. Police are able to arrest this guy on 1 felony account of menacing by stalking and 1 felony count of violating a protection order while committing a felony. And police will even tow away 3 of Stennett's cars. So they were able to issue a warrant for his arrest for that violation of the protection order. So that was good. So I think this was very crucial to how this woman survived. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes with this case that we're not able to know because, of course, they don't want to ruin this investigation. But what we're hearing is Stennett had actually been offered a plea deal. That's according to the prosecutor's office. A little bit later, and we'll go over this again shortly. But as they made that arrest of Michael, Cleveland police said there's no information connecting, Michael to the missing persons case at this time. Our focus right now is on finding the victim and returning her safely home. This case was scheduled for a final pretrial today. No trial date has been set. All further questions have to be directed to the Cleveland Division of Police. The family must be terrified. So May 9th, 2023, there's a vigil held. So the family and friends and members of the women's empowerment group, Brick House Wellness, banded together Wednesday to search the neighborhood for a missing woman. This was reported by News 5. Quote, "My name is Joseph Jordan, and I'm here to find my daughter. I want to find her alive, and I want to find her well." That is what Miss Jordan's father said to the group attending the vigil. They even had some of their EMS workers that actually gathered with them at the Fairport Avenue, which happened later Wednesday evening. They stressed how important Lachelle was to them and everyone that knew her, and the fact also that she was a mother of two. Her father, very emotionally and very caring, stressed that she was also a daughter. He said, quote, "Lachelle is my fourth daughter out of six. She is a twin, which is probably the hardest thing her sister is going through right now. They have been together their whole lives," end quote. The vigil continued with hope and prayers. Hope that they would return this young lady back home to her two children. As they approached the fifth day of Lachelle's disappearance, it's around 10:50 p.m. A woman that appeared to be exhausted, her clothes torn, barefooted, hobbled and limped into the open pantry, a convenience store at 625 Euclid Avenue, which is a convenience store that's not located but a few miles away from where she was last seen. According to a few stories, they say that she walks up to the counter of this convenience store, slaps both hands on the plexiglass barrier before reportedly telling the workers that her kidnappers had tried to kill her. She then asked to use their phone and promptly calls 911 for help. The store clerk, Mr. Islam, said, or he told ABC News, that Lachelle was actually looking very weak and that she also looked very nervous. It appeared that she was very tired. It appeared also that she might have been fighting with someone. A ripped shirt, and it appeared to be burned as well. As dispatch picked up the call, it was quite interesting. They said, "You'll never believe this. We just got a call from Lachelle Jordan. She says she got away from the people that kidnapped her and that they tried to burn her alive." So after Jordan's father was in an emotional wreck, pleading for his daughter to be returned home safely, she returns home on her own by escaping her kidnappers. Sadly, she does end up having to go to the hospital where she stays for a period of time, not certain exactly how long, but it was at least a few weeks. And the media starts reporting on this miracle discovery. Reports go on to say that Miss Jordan would actually be treated at the Cleveland Clinic. By May 14th, her father, Joseph Jordan, told reporters that Lachelle Jordan was currently hospitalized with unspecified injuries and is getting medical treatment. But he said she's going to be okay. Okay as can be expected. Lachelle has had some trauma. She's had some injuries. He continued to thank everyone for their efforts and help in finding his daughter, Lachelle. He said, quote, "A miracle did happen. Lachelle came home. The community stepped forward, and that made me proud to be a citizen of Cleveland," end quote. One reporter asked Mr. Jordan, what did it take for his daughter to come home? And the father just responded with, "She ran." I'm going to say that in a simple way. She ran. The lack for more information most likely was due to the fact investigators needed to keep everything on the lockdown. They knew that this investigation was going to have to be done very specifically and well thought out. But here's what's sad. By May 17th, the charges against this man accused of stalking the EMT worker, Lachelle Jordan, was dropped. Stennett was actually charged earlier that month with one felony count of menacing by stalking and one felony count of violating a protection order. That's when he was taken in on May 8th, and he was held on a $100,000 bond. A joint motion to reduce the bond was filed because at this point we have inconsistent evidence to substantiate the stalking complaint against Michael Stennett. Today, that case was dismissed and the investigation will continue. Any further charging decisions will be made after a thorough investigation is complete. Numerous law enforcement agencies are involved in the investigation. We declined to comment further at this point. So a lot of people, them dropping these charges were kind of scary, but sometimes, when you drop charges, that means there's bigger charges coming. So for a long time, this guy, even after all this, he continued to be a youth baseball coach until a few of the news reporters started covering this story, and it took that before finally people started turning their heads and saying, you know what, this might not be the right thing to do. Prosecutors released a statement to News 5 that said that we have inconsistent evidence to substantiate the stalking complaint. News 5 was also able to get a short and very limited interview with Lachelle Jordan. When they reached her, she was still in medical care. And now this very dangerous person, it seems, was running free on bond. Now, when News 5 had their chance to speak to Miss Jordan, it was over the phone and she refused to be on camera. Police had actually asked her not to discuss this case. It seems that they were being very serious about this investigation, and they knew that they're going to have to work very hard, as I mentioned earlier. She tells News 5 that she is still in the hospital recovering from her injuries and said that she is grateful for the Cleveland EMS colleagues and everyone else who joined in the search for her. She told News 5 that her family had visited her along with her 2 children while she was in the hospital. But for this woman and her family, life would never be the same. So here you have this guy out on bond. He's 65 years old. He has friends helping him stalk this woman. We know from the Lori Vallow case just how dangerous people like this can be, and it might not end until it's too late. It seems that the law takes too long to protect its people these days, and that justice, well, it has a long timeline. We are hearing more and more stories every day where people that are doing acts that are very dangerous and questionable who get out on bond, and when they do, it's too late to take back what happens once they're out of jail. So I hope that Miss Jordan remains safe and she remains cautious and her family protects her as they await justice. Thank you guys for helping me out. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. And thank you for being so supportive. Sending our prayers to this family, and we'll see you next time.